Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield audio podcast.
Well, it is May, and that means that it's time to talk about our summer reading. Every year, I make some recommendations about summer reading and about the books that many of you will want to read over the summer. Some of my favorite memories in life are reading books at certain places in the world, eating certain foods, reading while on certain kinds of trips. I just love to weave my reading into my life. And so I read books. I remember once under a tree in Hyde Park in London. I read a book on a battlefield once. I read a book, and I've read, I'm sure, hundreds of books in airplanes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here are some of the books that I strongly recommend for this summer. And of course, typical of me, there's going to be a wide variety of themes and publishers and types and genres. The book I am most looking forward to coming out this summer, I've not read it, by the way, because it's not out yet, is called Tribe, on Homecoming and Belonging, and it's written by Sebastian Junger. Now, you may know of Sebastian Junger. He wrote the book War that has shaped so much of our generation's thinking about war. He also wrote The Perfect Storm, which became the movie starring George Clooney, all about fishing boats off New England's coast. And he is a man really known for his reporting from the front lines. You may have seen him in documentaries like Restrepo and other similar related biographies. He's not what I would call an adventure writer, but he writes about adventurous themes. He writes about war, reports from the front lines. He writes about manly themes, really, in terms of the stories that he tells, although, of course, the themes certainly appeal to women. And in this book, Tribe, he's going to be talking about the small groups of people that we need around us, that we need to be part of, and that help us produce our best and give us belonging and a place to be and make life rich. I can't wait for this book. Junger is such a powerful writer. He will certainly draw his illustrations and metaphors from his experience amongst the military, certainly his observations about professions and minutacy and things of that nature. The moment this book comes out, I'm going to be reading it. And I can't recommend enough, if you're a leader, if you're a person who has to teach or work with people and drawing out their best and helping them live their lives to accomplish and achieve, this is going to be a very powerful book. There's another book that I am very eager for you to read. It won the National Book Award this last year. It's on the subject of race, which is so hot in our society. And it's called Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Published by Spiegel and Grau. I am a deep admirer of this author. I read his articles in The Atlantic all the time. This book is beautifully written, a powerful exploration of difficult themes. Now listen, there's no problem sitting on the beach in a bathing suit and sipping something wonderful and then reading difficult social analysis and commentary. Just because this book is about a situation that we don't quite have solved in our country doesn't mean it can't be great summer reading. In fact, I sometimes read some of my deepest stuff over the summer because that's when I have time to lay there and reflect on it after I've read it. Whereas often during the rest of the year when I'm traveling, I might read an important thought or an important chapter and then have to jump off the plane and go speak somewhere, do whatever I do. So don't be nervous about reading something deep. But Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, published by Spiegel and Grau, very, very important. There's another book I want to recommend, and it's called Necessary Endings. It's by Henry Cloud, published by Harper Business. And I have to tell you that this theme and this book is really important for people in leadership particularly, but really all people who need to think about the fact that things in life come to an end. One of the most difficult experiences for most human beings is when something ends. Now, I'm not talking about death or graduation from college, but when there need to be endings decided upon, agreed upon, instituted. People need to leave your life. Friendships need to end. Business decisions need to bring certain relationships to an end. Maybe you need to leave the business that you're in. You understand, there are endings that happen. Life is made that way. Some of the best things in life are seasonal. And so as a result, we need to know how to handle endings, how to face them, how to even craft them in such a way that they aren't ultimately destructive. This is definitely a business leadership book, but the principles apply so broadly that they're also good for those of us who have a tough time with endings, those of us who cower from conclusions, from sunset clauses, from things simply coming to an end. Everything in life will end. How we manage those endings is often a real determinant of the quality of life that we live. So can't recommend enough Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud, and that's a Harper Business book. Now, I love fiction, not as much as some readers and writers, but I love fiction. And the novel I want to recommend to you is a novel about Rome. When I read fiction, it's often historical fiction. And as a guy who reads the Bible, as a guy who understands that the classical world gave birth to the modern world, I love reading novels and histories of ancient Rome. So there's a New York Times bestselling author named Patrick Larkin, Larkin, and he's written a book called The Tribune. Can't recommend it enough. The subtitle is A Novel of Ancient Rome. I usually ignore the PR text on the covers of books, but let me just read to you one blurb that was given to us by Kevin Anderson, a fellow novelist. This endorsement blurb says, "The Tribune does for ancient Rome what the Name of the Rose did for medieval Europe and Gorky Park did for the corrupt Soviet Union." In other words, in the same way, perhaps you read The Name of the Rose, that The Name of the Rose was Umberto Eco's brilliant exploration of the medieval mind and myths and positives and negatives and culture. This book, The Tribune, does the same. Now note, I recommend Christian books and non, so when you read a book that I recommend, you are on your own about moral issues. The only issue that I care about regarding The Tribune is it an accurate evocation of the times, and since it's fiction, does it embed a great story within that accurate evocation of the times? Obviously, if you evoke the Roman Empire, you're going to have a lot of nastiness in there. You'll have to read some reviews and decide for yourself your ability to digest some of the grittiness of the Roman Empire. But this is a fine treatment, really fine treatment, and I just can't recommend it enough. Now, I'm going to do something I normally don't do, and I'm going to put two of my own books on the list. Given that we are in an election year, and given that there are very important faith themes to understand, you just wait and see how Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump go at each other on religious themes and how the conventions deal with these themes. I highly recommend my book, Ask the Question, Why We Must Demand Religious Clarity from Our Presidential Candidates. This is not just ego on my part. Here we are in an election year, and my book deals with broad cultural issues like the expectation that's passed on in many of our universities that we would eventually live in a secular society, and the lack of preparation by our society for contending in a religious age, and what are the 5 or 6 features of a president's faith story that we ought to pay attention to, and what have recent presidential candidates done wrong when it's come to religion? How did Mitt Romney, for example, a man I admire, how did he blow it when it came to religion in the last election? And what did Barack Obama get right and get wrong? These are all themes I explore. There's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of fun, but there also, I think, are some insights that will really help you. And while we're all focused on this stuff anyway, it's a great time to read a book that treats these things. The other book, and I want to say this mainly to men, although women read it and find it to be tremendously beneficial. If you are a man and you have not read my book, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, it's perfect summer reading. Read it. You'll enjoy it. You'll get it. And by the way, if you read it here over the summer, my book, the next book I'm bringing out, Building Your Band of Brothers, is a follow-on to Mansfield's book of Manly Men. So if you read my book on manly men over the summer, you'll be just in position when we release Building Your Band of Brothers. So 2 of my books I strongly urge you to read this summer ask the question, why we must demand religious clarity from our presidential candidates, and for men mainly, but women also benefit from it, Mansfield's book of Manly Men. All of those available on Amazon, all of those available online. That's more reading than most of us will do over the summer, but at a minimum, read Tribe by Sebastian Junger, read Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and read Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud. Then, yes, dive into my stuff and be sure and read, when you can, The Tribune by Patrick Larkin. This is great reading. You'll end the summer in much better shape mentally, physically. You'll look better. You'll run faster. You'll be smarter. You'll have a great summer.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator on Fox and CNN. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and The Miracle of the Kurds. His new book is Ask the Question, Why We Must Demand Religious Clarity from Our Presidential Candidates, available on Amazon. Learn more about Stephen at stephenmansfield.tv. The Stephen Mansfield podcast is directed by Isaac Darnold, who also wrote, produced, and performed the podcast theme song. This is a Chartwell Literary Group production.